Hello, everybody. Shalom Avracha. Welcome to another edition of the Tefillah Awareness Shuir. Recorded tonight, Sunday night, instead of Monday morning. Baruch Hashem, we're now doing our 6th week of this amazing Shuir that has gotten started, is getting traction. Baruch Hashem, for those who are new, Baruch Hashem, welcome to all our new members of the WhatsApp group. And to everybody else around the world who's going to be watching this show one way or the other, either tomorrow or a different day. My name is Shuir, and it's such a privilege to be hosting this Shuir twice a week. We also have a Yiddish Shuir also twice a week. Please tell your friends who speak only Yiddish, Chassidim in other words, that we have a Shuir for that as well. To this point, we have recorded already 10 Shurim. This is number 11 of the series. And think of it like Daf Yomi almost, but twice a week only. That's the only difference. Not each day. It's twice a week. And hopefully we'll continue with Shem, hopefully for a long, long time. One little quip I should say, now I'm Ben Azmanim for the Bachrim, and it should be known and aware that davening after Zman Tefillah is Osir. Again, I'll repeat it again. Davening after Zman Tefillah during Ben Zman is Osir, according to the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah. So think twice when davening late during Ben Zmanim. Does it give anybody a license to be davening at 10 o'clock? You want to daven 8 o'clock? It's one thing. Or 9 o'clock, it's something else. For this time of year, Zman Tefillah is somewhere around 10 o'clock, because we had just changed the clock recently. Just imagine if it was the summertime, Zman Tefillah will be a lot earlier, and it's also to daven so late. Unless you have a real inus, as we discussed previously. Let's begin this week's Shuir. We're going to learn this week Sif Yud Aleph and Sif Yud Beis in Siman Yud Beis in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Mitzvah Loretz Kishaholech Leves Knesses or Leves Medrash or Shal Mitzvahs. It's a mitzvah to run when one goes to shul or Beis Medrash. The Mishnah Berurah, by the way, points out that since it's a mitzvah to run to daven, one should certainly not tarry, meaning to take their time on the way to shul and engage in personal conversations with his friends. However, one should not run in streets that's populated by Goyim. They're going to mock him this way. If you're living here in New York City, if you run in the streets, running to shul, they'll look like who's this person here? So, better you can walk fast, that you can do, but you don't have to run. Or Yashal Mitzvahs, or if you're on Mitzvahs, Shneimar says a pasuk in Hosea, Nidifol das es Hashem, last Masul knowledge of Hashem. Ichsev, and it says in the pasuk also, and tell him, Derech mitzvasecha oretz, I will run in the way of your commandments. And therefore, Afil b'Shabbos, mutar l'oretz l'var mitzvah. Even on Shabbos, when it's otherwise forbidden to run, it's permitted to run to fulfill a mitzvah. Aval, however, however, inside the shul itself, inside the Beis Medrash, also it's forbidden to run. Many times, some places use the Beis Medrash or whatever as like a multi-purpose room for assemblies and to daven and for all the other things in between. Says the Shulchan Aruch, they're not allowed to run around a Beis Medrash for that purpose. When one comes to the entrance of the shul, you should pause for a moment, so as to not enter abruptly. One should also feel that you should draw back and be afraid of the splendor of the greatness of Hashem. May His name be blessed. And with this feeling, you should recite the following pasuk. V'ani b'rov chazdacha. As for me, to the abundant kindness. And by the way, in the pasuk, the whole pasuk in Talmud says like this. V'ani, and we say it every day by my Torah, by the way. V'ani b'rov chazdacha, avay v'secha, eshtach v'alecha kachacha b'yesecha. As for me, through your abundant kindness, I will enter your house. I will bow down myself toward the holy sanctuary in awe for you. Powerful words here. Shuir kamanatilas ushus. This saying of this pasuk is a form of requesting permission to enter the house of Hashem. And afterwards, shall we enter with awe and fear, in a manner was in the audience with the king. Just imagine running into the White House, or let's say in many places where there's a kingdom, right? You're gonna run into the palace. They'll look at you weird. It says, "Hello, did I ask you to come into my White House? Did I ask you to come into my palace?" First, you ask permission, and then you go in. What I do personally is, when I walk in, after washing my hands, trying my best to wash my hands. Now I learned this now and teaching a shir too. So I say my tefillah as I walk in as well. So we ask Hashem to enter the shul and he gets permission. But however, big killers and some communities, we either have their own streets, like an for example. It's a mitzvah to wrap oneself like a towel and put on tefillin. The face of this house. And they go dressed in this way to the shul. However, in those places where Yidden live among the nations, or if one would need to pass through dirty streets in order to reach the synagogue, the shul, should wrap himself in his house and tefillin, in the anteroom of the shul. Ki in Godol was a woody practice, to enter the shul, me'utav betzitzis, me'utav betfillin, wrapped in tzitzis, and towels and crown with tefillin, which probably explains why some of us they go into a different room and they put on their towels and tefillin in a different room and they walk in afterwards. Says Shechanach, that's the way it's supposed to be. So weiter. Now here's another one. Yud base. Im machmes eze eines and the yochel lechet b'seknes if due to some unavoidable circumstance one cannot go to shul or to besmesh down with the tzibur. So what does that mean? In other words, what does it mean? He's not able to go. Is an oinus. We discussed recently about oinus. Yeah. So what is oinus referring to? If he's too weak to go to the shul, or he will suffer a financial loss if he does so. Now, the word financial loss, what does it mean? First, only to actually losing money that one already had in the first place. One will not lose money, but he will be prevented from making a profit by his davening with that minyan is still obligated to daven in shul with that minyan, according to the Mishnah Brura. Let's continue. And the yochol leilech said already. Or if there's some circumstance that prevents him from going to any of the established tzibur davening, he should make an effort to gather 10 men for a minyan. She spell al kapon b'tzibur, so they can at least daven in his house with a minyan. If that's not possible, he spell al kaponim. The very least, he should daven at the same time that his tzibur is davening. Since the time is in favor of Hashem. Let's assume that someone davens at 7 o'clock on a daily basis. and he can't make it to that minyan, he should daven at the same time, 7 o'clock. Obviously, we discussed if it's an oinus. We discussed also the what's considered oinus, someone is on the gift nucky, someone who's not feeling well, and so on and so forth. Those are the ones who are oinus unsim, and those obviously try their best to daven the regular. If not, they can always daven after. But in this case, we're talking about someone who's not able to go to shul. He has to go early to work, whatever it is. Should daven at the same time as the tzibur is daven at 7 o'clock minyan, for example. The chayin also mi sheda makam sheminyan. Likewise, the one who doesn't have a place that doesn't have a minyan for tzibur, for example, in some small towns, with no tzibur. Yispal b'shar shetzibur b'spam b'yeroyas. Should daven at the time when the congregation present in the cities. However, in this situation, you must learn Torah. In other words, if the tzibur in the city davens shachs only after some time after this person arises, and he waits to daven until time to prevent him from being able to do anything due to issur of getting any daven before shachris. Oi, last malachta the chutza loy, or become involved in some pressing task. When it's brought el simchas, as explained earlier in simchas, we didn't discuss this in the Shuir earlier. Dawson the hassle temet tefillah that one may not begin to work or Torah study before davening. Al came therefore, he may daven earlier than the time than the tzibur prays in the cities. The spell to give and daven immediately when the sun rises. Now, there are some places that people learn before davening. It is okay to do so. You do have to say Mechas Torah before you learn in the morning before you daven shachos. So let's say someone who davens 7 o'clock and he wakes up early to learn the daf, like myself, I do that every morning. I wake up early to say Mechas Torah, and then I put on the daf, put on the fancy Shuir. So I usually do every single day. But we start with Mechas Torah first. So we do a little bit of davening, and then you can go learn. Alright? Let's now focus the second part of a Shuir of Tefillah with meaning. We're getting a lot of feedback on this. By the way, you should go out. It's in stores everywhere. It's in the Bermans, Eichlers, just to name a few. Just get or online at the website called EaselBookshopPublications.com or something like that. Okay, we're in the middle of the third chapter. So we're up to now the word a different kind of tefillah. The following are other reasons why people are disconnected from tefillah. They may wonder why we have to daven if Hashem knows what's best for us. They may feel that they were not answered until now. So how will the davening today help? In addition, we are flesh and blood, while Hashem is infinite. Why does He want to listen to us? These questions must be addressed so people will understand the value of tefillah. The following mashal shows why the above question needs to be answered. Two children became summoned by their fathers. One of the children had never met his father. Therefore, when people spoke about him or read about what was written about him, it had no effect on the child. He didn't even know that he was missing out on a kind, loving father. The second orphan, on the other hand, had known his father and would cry at the mention of his name. He felt a connection to his father and missed him. There was no need to explain to this child the love of the father has for his son, since he had experienced it when his father was alive. Here's the same thing. A person who never learned about davening and how tefillah is supposed to connect to him, to his loving father in heaven, is like the first child. He does not know why he's missing, and therefore views davening as a burden. One who learns about the foundations of tefillah is like the second child. He knows what tefillah is about and why he should be feeling when he davens. This person wishes to connect to his father in heaven and experiences a different kind of tefillah. we can all take this step, a step further as well. Imagine if someone will give another person a cell phone that doesn't work. He instructs this person to speak on the phone 3 times a day and tells them that he'll be rewarded for doing this. Silly, really? Be on the phone 3 times a day? That's silly. Even if one is trained to do this from childhood, he will never have a real phone conversation since there is no way to connect to anyone on the other line. However, if someone would give a working cell phone to an orphan and tell him that he can speak to his father who is no longer alive, the orphan would grab the opportunity to call his father and wait all day for his calls. So when we daven, we daven to our Father in heaven. One who learns about the fundamentals of davening knows that Hashem is listening to him and views davening as a pleasure. Next part is a divine presence. Hashem knows what's best for us. Therefore, the purpose of davening is not to tell Hashem what we think is best for us. Why is it necessary to daven in order to obtain what Hashem already knows we need? If something is not coming to us, why does davening help us to get it? If davening for something that is not coming to us is considered bribing Hashem, why did Hashem create us in a way that we must ask for our needs? So the answer to goal of Tefillah is to pursue real passionate relationship with Hashem in order to achieve complete attachment. When our needs are fulfilled, we engage in a relationship with Hashem. The Kol Yakar of Ikra says that rivers lending with interest is prohibited because why? Otherwise, one would sleep at night knowing that the money that he lends making more money than is more money for him. A Jew cannot take part of this, since Hashem wants him to down for his livelihood. So why are we down, Rabbi? We put in the effort Hashem wants us to make, even though He knows what we need and what is best for us. We still need to do our part. And this is one of the hardest balancing acts. Knowing that Hashem knows what is good for us, while still doing our part in davening. Although Hashem knows what's good for us, we still must ask for it. Hashem will not give it if we don't ask for it. Hashem does not need us to daven to Him as a tax. That is called Tefillah. Tefillah is a present that Hashem gave us. Every person has the ability to come closer to Hashem through his davening. And when we can speak to the Creator of the world on a regular basis. Even if Hashem does what is good for us, we still must daven to beseech Him for our needs. Once a person davens, he becomes eligible to accept the flow of good from Hashem. This is Kifi, the Sefer Chinuch. In other words, even though Hashem knows what's best for us and He can provide us what our needs, He designed the world in a way that we have to request them. If Hashem decreed that a farmer will have success with his fields, but the farmer does not plow it and get ready to grow produce, then even if it rains, the produce will not come. The farmer did not prepare the field properly. We need to prepare ourselves for Hashem's abundance by asking for it. Sefer Yekim 4. This concept, it was clear when Hashem created the world. The Pasuk in Bereshit says, no tree in the field was there on earth, nor did any herbs in the field grow, because Hashem had not brought down rain upon the earth, and there was no man to work the soil. Rashi says later on, he explains, that there was no man alive who was able to appreciate the value of what rain produces. And lastly for this year today, the Gemara says Chulan, which will become probably next after Menachos. Those are the Nafim Recycle currently. The Gemara says that trees and vegetation were ready to grow, but Hashem was waiting for Adam to be created so he could ask for mercy and the rain could make the vegetation grow. This teaches us that Hashem yearns for the tefillos of tzaddikim. Everything was ready to grow, but without humans intervening and asking Hashem for it to grow, it did not come forth. This is how Hashem created the earth. It's incredible that the entire world was ready to go, but nothing was able to grow until man was created to down for it. Without man, we understand that Hashem has the strength and power to make everything grow, nothing would grow. Amazing words from I believe it's They put together this wonderful sefer. It's Wednesday. Will be our next year, Bezos Hashem. We'll learn Shuir and of course a story. Probably I did mention last week there probably won't be a share next week, but I think we will have a share in English next week. Only one. And I'll probably discuss any Yom Tov about Pesach, coming to shul, how to deal with coming to shul on time, during Yom Tov davening, and also during Chol Hamoed. Have a wonderful day.